Hi everyone, I'm Bob Bannister from iManage. Welcome to the iManage Den. Just a few minutes really to tune you into thinking how you bring influence to bear with other people. So, one of the things that people struggle with is how do they create influence and maybe look to create that influence in a moment. Well, that really doesn't happen unless you've got a weapon or something in your hands and you can force somebody to do something. Real influence in organisations happens in many little movements and many little conversations that happen over time, and influential power builds. So good managers will recognise that, but they will also recognise that there are reasons why other people will follow their lead, and clearly that is an influential thing. So here are 5 primary reasons that people will be willing to follow, comply with those things that you would like to do or get them to do. And they fall into these categories I've listed here. So the first is reward power, which is really the positive thing. And notice in all these cases, actually, in every one, it talks about the subordinate or the other person's perception that this leader has this power, and this perception is really important because it doesn't even have to be reality, actually. It's just that the person sees the individual who's the leader as having this power. So reward power is exactly that perception that somebody can bring about a positive outcome for me. If I feel that, then I'm likely to follow their lead and comply with what they're asking me to do. So that's a really useful thing to know. I mean, we can use that in many, many different ways. It doesn't have to be financial reward, although obviously it could be in an organisation where there's financial bonus structure or whatever it might be. But it could be, there's a multitude of ways that you can reward people. Everything from, thank you, well done, great job, through putting people in line for good opportunities, putting a good word in for them. Any way in which you can bring about a positive outcome for them would kind of engender this reward power. So that's one side. The other side of that is coercive power, the second idea here. Again, it's a perception, but people will comply and will follow another person's lead if they believe they can bring about a negative outcome. So in a way, you could call this the carrot and the stick, reward power being the carrot and the coercive power being the stick. But what you've got with coercive power is the need actually to correct. And as a manager, dealing with positive consequences is really good, but dealing with the not so positive as well and bringing the kind of the edge to bear is something that demonstrates you have power and people will comply and follow in the grand scheme of things because they recognise actually you could bring about a negative outcome. Now that could again come in a multitudes of different ways. You could look to some sectors perhaps use this quite significantly, and if we believe the caricature of the army, then we might say that that kind of idea, if you don't comply then you have to do 50 press-ups or whatever it might be, would be that kind of coercive power at work. But there is a balance here, and I think good managers would look to bring about the positive reward power in conversation, but also pull people up when that's necessary and helpful, and give some developmental feedback and deal with slightly more on that coercive side. If you were to ask, I would say this is a 5-to-1 ratio, 5 times more reward than coercive power is useful. The third idea here is legitimate power. So legitimate power is the perception that you have the right to exercise influence simply because you are my boss. There's a legitimacy to your position. You are the project manager. You are the person in charge here. You are my supervisor. All of that legitimate power is based on authority and the simple idea that there's a hierarchy and I fit beneath you in that hierarchy, therefore I'm willing to follow you. It's really powerful, this legitimate power. I worked for a boss once who would change his mind left, right and centre, and we'd kind of sit round each week at the weekly meeting and he'd kind of be surprised that we'd gone away and done something that he said, but he was the boss, so when he said it we kind of marched off and got on with it. So we were very willing to follow legitimate authority. Many tests and experiments that have proved that over recent decades. So the fourth idea here is referent power, and this has to do with the individual's identification with the leader. And we talk about, are leaders made or are they born? We talk about the nature-nurture argument. Well, if any of these are a little bit more nature, maybe this referent power falls into that category a little bit more. It's that sense in which the person has charisma or energy or reputation or something actually that is kind of perceived attractiveness to the individual. Not necessarily physical attractiveness, of course, probably not most of the time, but something admirable, some skill, some capability that you admire, or their approach that they admire, their style, their principledness, whatever it might be. You could argue actually, the Hollywood set have referent power over their fans, or you take a rock star or somebody like that who has many people who will follow that individual, even though we might not call them a leader. They have followers, which makes them a leader. Much of that is about referent power. So if you take a footballer with a fantastic reputation, then people will follow his lead and be a great fan of that individual and listen to everything they say and want to emulate what they do because of referent power. And then the fifth idea here that I've got on the list is this idea of expert power. Individuals will follow the lead of others when they perceive that the individual has expertise in a given area. So a classic example would be that you are my accountant, so I come to you and what you tell me to do, what you suggest, I'm very willing to follow that lead just because you are the expert in that area. And to many extent, managers in many different disciplines will be experts in their field because they've come through the different roles and activities and learnt the trade, as it were. As they've reached the managerial role, they've often got that domain expertise. So if anyone comes and just says, Bob, what would you do about this? That's kind of a trigger that there's expert power at play, because people are willing to ask your opinion and get insight into your thinking. So 5 ways in which influence comes to bear, 5 ways in which we create followers and help people to comply. I don't know that we actually get these out as a toolkit and kind of play them like cards, but they kind of underpin our authority and our ability to influence as a manager. So they're useful to know and to have in mind. And in actual fact, you could think of each of them independently and asking, am I using this to the right degree? Am I capitalizing on any of these particular areas to create an environment of influence where we have a body of people, a team who are really willing to work alongside us and be led by us as managers? So there's some food for thought there for this week. I hope that's useful. Do follow us if you'd like more information. The iManage Performance YouTube page, at iManage Twitter feed, growing like crazy. Connect with us there. Facebook too. We've got a great Facebook page. We post lots of content on that. And of course our website, imanageperformance.com. Catch you next time.